Hey, what's up, y'all? This is your girl Diamond, and I have a special show for y'all where I bring my homegirls on here and we do, homegirl stuff. Talk about us doing amazing stuff with your friends and really exploring the world. And so I brought on Breonna Mrcree and Aria Said. Hi,
Hey.
Hey.
so I wanted to bring y'all on because we just came back from an amazing, fabulous learning experience in the motherland in Egypt. First of all, how excited were you before the trip for us to do this? What tell me about your feelings and your vibe. Was this each one of y'all's first time in Africa?
My first time.
Yeah, my first time as well, actually.
I know talking to the both of you before this happened, I think we all had the same experience going into this, saying that this was a dream come true. Although I'm going to speak for myself, I was nervous about going to Africa, but it was a dream come true, something I had always thought about since elementary, about going to Africa, about going to Egypt and seeing the pyramids. So just for this to come to light in this amazing way to where I got to spend it also with the both of you was just so amazing. It'll be unforgettable.
I think a big thing for us too was what's a place that we haven't been and we didn't know if we'd ever be able to go back. Having all these experiences in this trip with y'all in particular, literally like, oh, I could not imagine doing this trip with anybody else. I could not. Mm-mm. I've always wanted to go ever since I was 7 or 8. So it just meant a lot to me that this could even happen. And this has been like our new tradition, like the last couple of years, where we kind of escape the holiday and like go somewhere crazy. So this felt the craziest. I don't know if we should do this crazy all the time, but
I thought my very first place to go to Africa would be like South Africa because that's just something that I hadn't thought about Egypt. Egypt seems so ancient. And I know that's a cultural thing, but growing up in church, you hear about Egypt and in that context. So I only think about it like that. And so when the idea came that I would go to Egypt, I was like, oh my God, I never really thought about what it would be like visiting Egypt, on a cultural level and on, all the things. And I definitely didn't think about doing all the things that we actually were able to do on this trip. Breonna, what were some of the things that you were nervous about? You said that you were nervous and, kind of apprehensive. So what was the things you were nervous about?
Yeah, so usually on our trips, on our travels, we usually go to tropical places.
Under the sun.
Exactly. And so I love the sun. So I'm not naked, but I always have skin showing because I love to be put your glasses back up. Because I love to be dark and glowy. But going to Egypt and not
she
only
loves to be naked. I just need the record to reflect. She loves to be in the nude.
But even just reading about Egypt was a Muslim country. It had been through so many different hands, and it was so conservative. Talking to some of my colleagues from the university that have been to Egypt and talking about how women have to be sort of invisible in this way to where they're unseen, and that it's a male dominated space. Can't show your ankles, your elbows need to be covered. And I was like, that is just not me. So I remember calling the both of y'all late night phone calls about what we are wearing. And I was just like, girl, to hell with it. I'm just gonna buy some muumuus and some turtlenecks and some flowy pants, which is not really me, but that's what I was nervous about, the dress code and just how I would be perceived as a Black trans woman in Egypt.
The dress part, we know Arya. Arya is modestly dressed a lot anyway.
Muslim fit.
She's a consummate Kojic auntie.
Yeah. Well, today I'm giving you daughter of Farrakhan.
Nation of Islam, right?
Yes, Black Israelite tea.
Right. So I don't want to say I was nervous about it. Anytime I'm coming into another culture that is very different from ours, I want to see how fly I can be. And we all are fashionistas. So in my mind, I wanted to see how all of us was going to do what we do, but in the culture. That's how you can tell if you are a fashion girly, if you can adapt who you are with the culture and with the scenery of where you're going. I think that's the exciting part. Just as exciting as going to the particular place and exploring the culture is seeing how you can be one of the locals in a sense. And so I was excited about the clothes in that kind of way. Now, of course, being a Black trans woman and we're going to a foreign country, and we all are activists, and hearing about some of the customs, hearing about some of the negative stuff in regards to LGBT people getting arrested and for staying in the hotel together. And me and you, Breonna, we were bunked together, so I didn't want them to thinking we were lesbians, girl.
But we did have double beds. I think the problem comes in when you're in a room with two people and you want a single
And
bed.
it's one bed.
Yeah, I think that's when they start to turn their nose up.
And then even that, when we were, as far as the clothes and those kind of customs, I think another, I don't want to say if it's a blessing, but we are American. And so coming in there and seeing the people, some of the things that they told us beforehand were almost a little bit exaggerated, because there were people who weren't following the quote unquote rules that we were learning about in our education on the culture. So yes, it was a lot of people who were covered up, but there were some people who weren't covered up. There were some people, who weren't following those rules.
Yeah, I mean, I swear I saw a bunch of Asian tourists that had on booty shorts and blazers.
Yes.
I was like, okay. I feel like because, mind you, we didn't see a lot of Black people while we were there that were from America.
Yes.
Until like the last day, right?
No, me and Breonna met some guys. Remember, we met the guys from Detroit.
Yes, but wasn't that the last day?
No, that wasn't the last day.
That was the second to the last day.
Yeah.
So just seeing how people reacted to European and Asian tourists versus the way that they acted towards us, I feel like was very noticeable.
Yeah, well, give me some examples. Give me some details.
Yeah. Hello, brown sugar. Come to me, brown sugar. Welcome home, my family, my color. Welcome home. And so
cousin.
Everybody was our family. And mind you, we have to say that we were in a big tour group of 12 people.
Yeah.
Mostly European folks from New Zealand and Germany and Miami, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
And so being in this situation where we are bold Black women in this arena where everybody else sees us as Black women, it was like an embrace of family that no one else could really describe. I remember the lady from Germany was like, oh my God, you have so many cousins out here.
Because everybody was calling us cousins. And sometimes, it felt like they were pandering to try to get us to buy stuff. But other times, it wasn't about money. It was about, I know I can tell that y'all are American and welcome home.
Yeah, I see you as family.
Yeah.
I feel like Breonna, she looked up all these rules, and then she was like a walking encyclopedia about Egypt like months before the trip. Because remember, she was like, well, I read and I saw, or I went through YouTube videos and you're gonna need to carry toilet paper. You're gonna need to you're gonna need to. Do you remember that? And like, I'm like, oh, that can't be right. But I hadn't given it a lot of thought,
The
Chris.
toilet paper thing gagged me.
I want to hear why it gagged you.
Because that's a common luxury that we have that I didn't think. That's just such a common small thing that I wouldn't think somebody would either try to monetize or try to. So what would the toilet paper thing? So when you go into places in Egypt, there is like a attendant, and usually in America, I only see this at like clubs sometimes. Like at the club, somebody would be in the bathroom with some napkins or some gum or some, something, and they're expecting, maybe you a tip, puts a little something in their tip jar or whatever. But this is a constant thing in Egypt to where they are. There's attendants who are there with toilet paper if you need toilet paper, and they're expecting you to pay for it.
Yeah, so it's customary, the common practice, and this is not obviously when you go to someone's house, but when you go to any public places, and you need to use the restroom, you have to pay to use the restroom and to access toilet paper. So you are not guaranteed that there's going to be toilet paper in your stall. So what so Diamond, of all of us, I think was the most furious about it all the time.
Yes.
It wasn't that shocking to me because I feel like why not monetize? I feel like it happens actually in the Western world just as much. We just don't notice it as much because you have to pay to use the restroom. You got to buy something to then use the restroom. And especially in San Francisco, there are no public restrooms. So you literally have to go into a restaurant and you have to spend money in order to access the restroom. And then the restroom will be filthy. Like in like Europe, France, etc., you do have to pay to access the public toilets. So you always have to have some coins to get in there. But it's usually fully stocked and it cleans itself like after each use. But this was very different. My kiki in particular was when, where were we? Some museum. I'm like racing to the bathroom, and then I didn't realize that the toilet paper part, which you all had become accustomed to, I hadn't. And so I was gagging because you had to pick the toilet paper out the thing in front of him. That was gagging me. Like it was in the little, like a tissue thingy, like, and you just pick. And it was like you pay. And then it's like he looked over, like monitoring how much I was taking. And I was so embarrassed because I was like, oh my God, like, look away. I need the whole thing. But
I noticed that they only give you two. So in most of the places that you go to, you pay them and 1 Egyptian pound, or what was it, 20 Egyptian pounds, which is $1 our money, and they give you 2 pieces of toilet paper. And usually they hand it to you. They don't give you the box so you can't overtake.
that is such a, now that to me is the gag.
Like Aria said, I was the most annoyed by this custom. Very, 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 very annoyed. So annoyed that even, I won't say harmed myself, but one time we were at the Valley of the Kings, and this is the first time somebody was in front of the door asking to pay. Usually it's somebody, you can go in and use the bathroom freely, but there's somebody like at the sink, like, do you need toilet paper? But at this one, the guy was sitting in a chair outside of the bathroom. And so you
Right,
see the
that's the
size of
guy
the
I was talking
bathroom.
about.
Yeah. And so I'm thinking I'm going to walk past him and go to the bathroom because I already got toilet paper in my bag. So, because once I did it, once Breonna told me, oh, this is what it gives, honey, out toilet paper bag. there it go. But when he tried to get me to pay just to go to the bathroom, I did. Oh, at a museum? Oh, baby, I was over that. And so I was not gonna I wasn't gonna
that we
play with
already
him.
paid to get into. Yeah.
Yeah, that was weird.
Um,
We already paid to get in here. Why are you paying? Why am I paying you to go to the facilities? Like, what? This is weird. This doesn't make sense. It makes sense if this is a store, a restaurant, and you just come in and use the bathroom. I don't like when they do that here, but you know, maybe that makes more sense because this bathroom is for our customers. Da 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 da. Makes sense. I get it, but we already done paid to come in here. So why are we paying to go to the bathroom? No, I didn't like that. I didn't like that at all.
Now, I will say they were clean though, most of the
Always.
time. We had maybe, I don't want to say misconceptions, but I think because Egypt is not necessarily like an Instagram destination in the sense that, like, we already can imagine ourselves going to Greece, we can imagine ourselves going to Ibiza, we can imagine ourselves going to like a tropical island, like, because we've seen influencers, celebrities, and people have access to those places and share about it. But I think because there's not a lot of, when you Google like what to wear in Egypt or what to pack, there's not a lot of dialogue on it. There is some, but there's not nearly as much as when you think of like taking a trip to Greece or something, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I think because of that, there was definitely like not, I don't want to say misconceptions, but just like Breonna was saying, like exaggerations of certain things. Like there were people, we learned when we got there that, Egypt is probably way less conservative than most of the Middle East in terms of dress code. So you saw Egyptian women with a head covering and some skinny jeans and a t-shirt. Like, you know what I mean? Like we
Yeah.
definitely saw that in a way that like we didn't really see burqas head to toe. Like, that's a whole nother
We
thing.
saw
But
some, but it
yeah.
wasn't like we definitely had room to play around. Yeah, would I walk around in a bikini top with my, no, but I felt like I was like, oh, you don't have to be covered up as much as that they would imply when you first do your research. And so,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. And we found Instagrammable moments, even though they didn't show it to us before we came. We did find beautiful spots to take pictures of. What were some of your favorite
Mm-hmm.
spots that in your experience with, like, finding those moments? What were some of your favorite spots that you took pictures at?
The Nile.
Mm.
Being on the cruise ship, looking outside and seeing the River Nile, that was just one of the best moments, the most relaxing moments that I've had on the trip. Because the trip was very vigorous. It was a lot. It was a lot. But the best moment I had was sitting in the suite in the chair overlooking the River Nile. It was one of the best things for me.
I was so tired, and I was just waking up, and no, I was tired, so I was in a good little sleep, and Brianna tapped me and woke me up. She's like, "Girl, look." And she opened the curtains, and we were literally looking at us floating down the Nile. We were seeing
Mm-hmm.
animals drinking in the water like we on Lion King. We seeing the bush. We're seeing just everything, just beautiful birds. It just was so dope. And I was like, God, could you imagine? We never would have thought that we would be in this position. And many times, as you heard about the Nile growing up, oh, this is the longest river in the world, or stuff like that. And it just was so exciting to wake up to that. It was a beautiful moment. Definitely, totally agree.
They need to like push that more of what it is because it was stunning.
Yes.
So y'all had on the same day, like I had a similar experience. Like I woke up, I felt the boat moving, I looked out the window, and then I ran upstairs to the sun deck and was like, oh my God, I'm in the Nile in the middle of Egypt on a boat, on a yacht, whatever you want to call it. Like, what is life? This is so, because it wasn't until that point that I got to digest, like, oh my God, I'm in Egypt. Like, that's crazy. Never in a million
Mm-hmm.
years did I think it would be possible. Never in a million years did I think I could go. Especially, after transitioning, I feel like, there's just a list of countries in your mind as a trans person of like, oh, I could never go there. Like, I won't be safe. Like, they'll throw stones at me. Like,
or you
yeah.
couldn't even come in, because we've seen a bunch of popular trans women come into a country and they wouldn't even let them
In
in.
Dubai,
In
right.
Dubai and stuff like that.
Mhm,
Yeah.
yeah. But you went to Dubai, actually,
Mm-hmm.
and they let you in.
Yeah.
Yes! I mean, I think we should celebrate small victories.
Yeah, I went to Dubai and Doha in
Because you missed
Qatar.
your flight, right? You
Yeah.
missed your connecting flight.
Yeah. And so I stayed there a little bit, and they put me in a hotel. We got invited to this trip by Intrepid Travels. That's who allowed us to experience this. And so the beginning of the trip, because of the itinerary, we're hitting so many places. So we're starting off in Cairo, then we're going to Aswan, then we're going to Luxor City, and then back to Cairo. And so in the beginning, because we're in Cairo first, that is when they had planned to do all the typical tourist stuff, go to the pyramids, the Egyptian museum, and the Sphinx, all those kind of things. And so because I missed my flight, I was gonna miss that portion of the beginning of the trip. And I was so devastated because, honey, how do you come to Egypt and not get a
Wait,
picture?
you did miss it though.
Yeah, I did. Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
I did. So I was so devastated. I was like, oh my God, I missed the good stuff. Because I didn't think about, they're gonna do that in the beginning because we got other places to go. And so missed my flight, and they put me in a hotel in Dubai. And it was a very, very nice hotel, but I didn't get to Egypt until that next morning, that next afternoon. And y'all had already been to the pyramids, y'all had already been to basically all the Egypt, all the Cairo stuff already. So I was like, God, but I'm not gonna let it ruin. I'm just gonna still enjoy the rest of the trip because I know it's still more to come. And so, yeah, I was devastated in the beginning because I did miss my flight. The majesty of those things, like when you think about going to Egypt, yes, the pyramids come to mind, the Sphinx come to mind. What are some of the things outside of those typical tourist locations do you remember were kind of a highlight to y'all?
For me, it was going to the spice market.
I was gonna
Just
say
Mm.
to,
that.
yeah, just to walk through the spice market, and it's at night. Because usually when we have big markets like that, we call them flea markets, and they're only during the day. But theirs is at night. It's all lit up. It's full of people. It is energetic. It has so
Like
much
thousands of
energy.
people. It's
Yes.
Thousands.
lively.
And
Yeah.
so walking through the spice market, I felt like it was beautiful. I felt like, and the people were so warm and inviting. Now, Arya did run into some man, but the people there were so warm and inviting that I felt pretty safe. Then going to the tea shop I love the tea shop. I use that tea all the time. So that was one of the highlights for me, to go into the outdoor market at night.
Same. I think, well, there's also just a rush, like the way, just so folks understand, like the way that we were traveling. So when you do a trip with Intrepid, it is truly like adventure travel. So what we didn't know is, Diamond missed her connecting flight in Dubai, like had to stay the night to get the earliest flight the next day. Me and Brianna arrived, and literally like we're like looking for the airport transfer person. Then we like have to go through customs. That takes like 45 minutes. And it's a guy with a sign hustling you through. And, we'd just been flying for maybe 16 hours. And so, we had a layover in Germany and then, whatever. And so we're finally here. We're like exhausted just from the travel. Then, we get into like, we get our baggage, we're like roaming around, like we're gagging that we're in Egypt. Then we get into a van, and then this van is driving you through Cairo. and you don't realize that Cairo is bigger than New York City, that you're seeing like, and then you're driving for like what feels like 2 hours to get to this hotel. And then you get to the hotel, your travel host, or at least in our case, was there. She already ordered us dinner because the restaurant was closing and was like, great, you guys need to be up at like 5 a.m. the next morning to go see these pyramids. And we're like, oh, okay, yes, And so literally, you then lay in bed and you're like, oh, wait, that's like in 4 hours. Like, so by the time we get to this like spice market, we have been like traveling nonstop, like literally like not a lot of sleep, city to city. We've flown from Cairo to the south of Egypt to another city. We've like been on the boat, and then we've been walking around touring like temples, and then like going to different places or going to eat with a family, and you know what I mean, like all these kind of different activities. And it's literally sun up to sun down. And so what was also really cool about the market, or just what Brianna's saying in general, like we literally were like in sandals, modest dresses, and there's like horse and buggies and cars, and like, but it's like the inertia of it is like you're in basically the New York City of the Middle East, and like there's like horses, there's camels, there's cars, there's people walking and talking on their phones and stuff, like, and then there's also, so it's like the old world and the new world at the same time, like, and I think that's what the spice market, what made it so fabulous too, is like it's just both of it all at the same time, all happening all at once. Like it was stunning.
It was this thing that made me feel the most like I was in another country. Yeah, you see the other big stuff, but where I was like, oh wow, this is I'm you get people, of course, this is something that's gonna happen throughout the whole trip. You're gonna get people who are trying to sell you stuff. They're trying to get you because they know you foreign and they know you got some coins, so they're trying to get you to buy things. There actually was two markets that we went to. There was one that was a little bit early on the trip, and that one seemed the most scary to me, just because of the introduction to it, because we're walking through the streets, and the streets, ain't no stop signs. It's no, you gotta play Frogger to get across the street.
Okay.
But it's all an adventure. And so we're going through and we're walking through, and our host Iman is so amazing. Like, she is so dope, and just describing everything and telling us, hey, this is this, this is this, and just keep corralling us, because some people are not some people, Arya. Some people are going slow. And gotta catch up, and just corralling all of us. We're riding through, and people are looking at us. People are flirting with us. People are, saying, hey, cousin. It's just a wide range of what's happening.
That.
Offering you sex.
You.
No, all of us.
No, you. They caught you by yourself. And I also have to say this. The people that we traveled with were really amazing also. We had an amazing group of people that we didn't know from Adam, but they were so nice, so welcoming, and even very protective of us.
So another element was Arya spilled our tea in the van. She just went ahead and spilled our tea in the van and was talking, and once the people, got, knew that, these are Black trans women, we don't know if they had figured out before or after or whatever, but it was a clear announcement of our tea. Once that happened.
The way you say it. So I announced it because, yes, those white people needed to protect us. I'm just saying. I need to be protected. I'm delicate. So
So I don't know. I don't know how much protecting they were gonna do. They tried. There was a couple of moments where they tried. Not that we need. We're saying that like we needed protection. There was no time that I felt um like there was protection needed. Nobody was bothering us. So I don't want to give the impression that somebody was bothering us. Nobody bothered us that I know of. Did anybody bother y'all?
When you talk to people, then they become more aggressive because they want to try to sell you something. They want
Yes.
your attention. So the more attention you give them, the more aggressive they get. And if other folks from Egypt see them talking to you, then they come over also to talk to you. So it's almost like you're in a swarm of people.
Yes.
So there was this portion, there was this time that we were walking back to the boat and Arya stopped to smoke a cigarette, and we all kind of kept walking.
Mm-hmm.
So I turned around and looked, and at this point, all I heard was Angela screaming, "Stop it!" And then
Enough.
right, and then I see them walking through the herd of people, and had to tell. I feel like because we're as Americans, as Black Americans, we have this hospitality that a lot of folks don't seem to have when traveling. I think especially traveling to other countries. So we're very nice. We're hi. We had to learn, oh no, don't speak to people. Don't let no one put anything in your hand. Don't let people grab you. Don't talk to people. Don't look at people because then they want money from you.
You are a tourist and they are trying to sell something, whether it be their little posters, whether it be clothes, whether it be whatever they're selling, they are haggling. They are trying to get you to buy it. And so they're showing you things and they're being aggressive, bringing it up to you, especially in certain portions. Like I remember when we went to the Isis temple, and before we got there, when you go to the temple, you have to ride a boat to the temple. But before you get to the boats, it's like these little shops, and honey, they got the little kids, little 9-year-olds coming up to you trying to sell you something. Everybody is just trying to come up to you, and you gotta say no, and you gotta don't have to say no, but you just gotta be like, no thank you, no thank you. But they're gonna keep trying and keep trying. It was something that I had to get used to, but by the time you get at the end of the trip, you used to it, child. Because it happens all the time. I gotta say that I was amazed. Like it felt like I was Beyonce. So I'm in the front of the group because I'm like
tipping.
I'm feeling so like, oh my God, this is amazing. And they are just talking. Nobody is it's nothing rude being said. It's just saying nice stuff and being amazed that we are. Of course they can tell we're not from here just based on how we dress, and they're just giving us compliments. They're and you can tell they are talking to us.
Only us out of the whole group. Us. I remember at that point walking through that market, you were ahead, and so I grabbed Aria's hand and we were walking together hand in hand. And I remember this man saying, "Ooh, too." Hi, family, come to my store. Come to my store.
Yeah.
I don't feel like any of it was insulting or derogatory. I just think that they will do it. Like you said, they see us, we're not from here, but also they're going to do whatever they can to do to get you to come to their shop and see what they're selling.
Yeah.
Because we are tourists and they want you to spend that money, especially if you're spending American money.
Yeah. And,
it is overwhelming. It didn't make me fear my safety so much as just, it put me on edge and anxious a lot of the time. So, like, there was a moment, I think, Breonna, you sat this one out and stayed on the boat, but we went to the temple or another temple or something. And it's like, it was literally dozens of kids following us with their merchandise. Then we get to a turn right before the temple, and it's like 5 men in front of you, like shoving things in your face. They want you to touch it. If you touch it, then you have to buy it. Remember, like all of those kind of rules that you're trying to get through, and like, but you're, for me, I still want to be polite. So I was like, oh, no, thank you. No, thank you. No, thank you. And the host is like, you need to just ignore it. You need to just go through. And like, but it feels wrong to be like a guest in someone's country. And then be like paying them dust. And so that's what got me in trouble all the time too, is because I'm like, I wasn't trying to make eye contact or anything. I'm just trying to get through, but yeah. So that was overwhelming and anxiety inducing. And it definitely made you feel like you were famous. Like it's like, because then they're all talking to you when you come back out of the temple. They're yelling at you. Like, someone's like, that's my
Compliments.
wife.
That's my wife.
All with the intention of making a sale.
Yeah, that's what it is. It's like
And
when you
so,
go to the mall and there are those kiosk people. Ooh, can I ask you a question?
uh-huh.
Ooh, can
So,
I da 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 like
yes.
that?
So basically, it's like they're 10 times more aggressive than the kiosk commission only sales associate,
At the
where
mall.
they don't get hourly paid. They trying to sell you that flat iron, that hair serum, and they're like, this beautiful, this will make you look, So they're, think of it as like they're 10 times more aggressive, and there's so many more of them, all at the same time. Also, I walk slow. So like there's just a way that like if you are slowly behind the group, then you're in trouble. Cause
You're like
then
it's like when the lions are trying to catch the
uh
little gazelle. They're gonna catch the slow ones.
and so I have to confess there was like maybe 1 or 2 days on the trip where there were some mornings I would wake up and I just be like, oh, I really don't want to do it today. Just because I know I'm gonna be slower than everybody else. um that I just knew that it was gonna like, because when you're not in sync in terms of pace with the group, then you fall into the crowd, and then the group is trying to keep up with the host, so no one looks back to like check on you and see if you still coming. So it's like a whole thing. And so sometimes it was like, oh girl, I'd rather not. I'd rather not go. But we're on this tour, and so I feel like I did a good job trying to keep up with the skinny girls. So
There is a immersive element of you got the tourist stuff, you have the beautiful views, you have the shopping things, and there is an immersion element, not only just going to like the markets and stuff like that, but they have three families host you while you are on tour. So some of your meals will be had at people's personal houses or personal locations where they cook for you. And, you know, a lot of them tell us about, their family and, their everyday life. And actually, that is one of the most, you know, to me, memorable moments of the trip, just kind of meeting these people and their family and eating the food. Cause, to me, those moments were the best food moments for me. And so, can you tell us about those experiences? What did you take from it?
I mean, for me, the most memorable one was the Nubian Village because they were dark skinned, beautiful Black people.
Yeah. And their story was funny. Like their marriage story was funny. I thought that was dope.
Mona Lisa.
yeah.
Yes.
Their
That was the
names
host
too.
name.
Like the names that they have is my kiki.
Like I thought it was I still think it was fake, but it was it was funny the names, but it was funny for them to tell the stories and to tell their customs of how they got married, staying with family, just different things. Because one of the customs that I thought was interesting is the husband went to stay with the mother-in-law and the daughter in the beginning of their marriage. And I was like,
For like
oh, they're kind of
45 days or something, right?
yeah.
They actually stayed
Yeah.
for a year. Remember,
Yeah.
they stayed longer than the 45 days.
Right.
Mm. And
They
that's not
did.
an Egyptian, like a universal
That was
Egyptian
Nubian.
tradition. That was a Nubian. I mean, we know about Nubians, I think, as Black people in America, but they're not specific to Egypt. So they are in Egypt, they're in Sudan, they're
Yeah.
in Somalia, right? Like, and it's a population, a tribe of or a race of people from that area.
Mm.
I remember walking up the stairs into room where we were going to sit down and eat, and walking past the kitchen, and we see everybody in their kitchen. Just like Black people everywhere else, the kitchen is a place where you congregate and everybody's sitting around talking while they're cooking.
Because they were definitely gossiping.
They were.
Like him.
And then to come in and sit down and have a conversation with JJ and Mona Lisa. Mona Lisa talked about their love story and their courtship and how they met and how they got married and the traditions. They even passed around their wedding book. So you got to see the pictures of their wedding, and to hear JJ talk about his businesses and his family. For me, that was the highlight of one of the highlights of the trip was the Nubian Village.
Mine was the third. The third one was my favorite because our host seems like she was more familiar with her. And so the energy walking in was almost like she was walking into her homegirl's house, and it was a whole vibe. And I liked her because her personality was more like your Egyptian auntie is cooking for you. She literally took us to a kitchen, and in the kitchen taught us a meal to cook, and I done cooked this since I've been back home because I was recording it, and it is so good. And I just something about that third one that was really, really, I loved it. I love the third one.
Garlic and jalapeno pepper, okay? Then it's the name Molokhaya.
Monohair.
Say Molokhaya.
Monohair.
Very easy. Mix it well. Sometimes they make Molokhaya with rabbit.
Oh, yes.
Okay?
Keep stirring, Melissa. Keep stirring.
I came on holidays to get away from it.
You're on duty.
When put it garlic on Molokhaya, all say big sound. Okay? When put it garlic on Molokhaya. Okay?
sound.
All big sound. The shaha. Shaha.
Shaha?
Shaha. Shahit الملوخية. Repeat after me. Shahit.
Shahid.
Shahit
Shahid.
الملوخية.
Monohair.
Again. Shahit الملوخية. Okay?
Shahid Monohair.
Shahit الملوخية. Okay? Big sound. All. Okay? We put it ملوخية on garlic. Okay? 3, 2, 1. دي الشهقة.
Shaha.
شهقة الملوخية.
Shahid Monohair.
Finish. Very easy. Put it.
Beautiful.
So I never felt there was no time that I felt unsafe on the trip. I felt like it was, because we were in a group and because, just our great tour guide, I never really felt unsafe. But if there was one time that I felt like my brain was saying, bitch, you should be unsafe, you should be paying attention, it was when we were going to the Nubian house. When we were going to the Nubian house, we had got a boat. We had, they had got a drinks or whatever, and we got a faduka to this particular place. But when we got off the boat, in order to get to this house, we got to walk through like this not very well lit landscape. We got to go through this,
And it was at night.
It was at night, and it was like this back alley, and it
dirt roads.
Sand dune.
It reminds me of like a movie scene where, you might be in a foreign country and there's something kind of shifty going on and da. But because we were with the group and we were with our amazing tour guide, my eyes were saying, you're unsafe, you're unsafe, you're unsafe, you're unsafe. But I was kind of saying, no, you're okay, because you're with your group and you with this great guy.
I mean, you weren't wrong to feel that way. So, I mean, we basically, and I hate saying this like one of the people on the trip, but we were basically in the project. because they do the same thing when you visit the favelas in Brazil. That's exactly what it reminded me of. They're beautiful. They're like, you know, indigenous to the populations that live there. And we got there and it was super dark. There's no street lighting. It's a dirt road. And then there's like the young kids running around like the village following us like, oh, the Americans are coming, very much that. Like, and so yeah, it was a little intimidating because I'm like, oh, I'm used to, this is the part where they take you to XYZ destination to show you how life really is, but I'm not used to doing this at night. Because I was like, oh, they gagged us, taking us when it was extra dark, but then you get there and you see, I mean, I think that was the first time for us too that we saw people that looked just like us.
Yeah.
Like up until then, we'd been staring at, hieroglyphs of ancient Egyptians all day. So like by the time we get there, it's like, oh my God, like, and so it was stunningly beautiful. Just like the family and all the women that prepared the meal for everyone. And the kids were so adorable and they were like asking questions in the hallway. Like I went with Iman and we snuck away to like, smoke a cigarette. And the kids were like asking so many questions and stuff, partly because, and Iman explained, like they don't see women smoking in public. Like in the south of Egypt, it's a lot more conservative, just like I imagine like the United States. So like there's just certain customs that, they just wouldn't see. So it was, yeah.
So let's talk about Iman, our amazing tour guide. What were some of the highlights of her as a guide?
I think I said this before, her just navigating the landscape of Egypt as a guide, as a woman, and being such a boss at it. It was just such an amazing thing to see. As we walk through Egypt, we don't see any women guides. The only women we see are tourists. So she is not only a guide, but she is such an amazing historian that other guides are standing there listening to her as she teach us about the cultures of Egypt. I remember we were at the mosque and she was talking about the mosque, and these men had to come over and give her so much praise about who she was, what she was doing, and how
she was describing the pillars of Islam and in such a intersectional and beautiful way that they had to come over to our group. They weren't even in our group to tell her that she did it so brilliantly.
Yes. And so
they were Egyptian as well, right? So they were Egyptian men who were coming to visit the mosque or something. So they weren't tourists, and they were so stunned by her that they had to give her like affirmations and praise for the way that she was leading our tour.
Yes. And I have to say, usually when I travel, I am a very introverted person. I am a hyper introvert. So I'm the person that is quiet and sitting back. I feel like she made me feel so comfortable in the atmosphere I was in. I remember the night they had a party on the boat and people were talking about they were going to dress up and go to the party. Now I was going to pay the party because I'm just not the party person. But she was like, no, you should come to the party. And so I was like, all right, I'll go to the party. And so then I went to the gift shop. I bought a little shingle belt and I bought like a little head wrap, and I came to the party and I just felt so welcomed. I felt so secure and everything, and the party was amazing. She was trying to get everybody up on the dance floor and dance. She was fun. She was so fun. It was amazing to be in the space with her. If you ever go to Egypt with Intrepid Travel, Traveler Iman needs to be your tour guide. It won't be the same if she is not your tour guide.
What about you, Arya?
Intrepid was you know, they did a lot of work when they learned that we wanted to do Egypt. They did a lot of work behind the scenes. They had several meetings. They had safety meetings. They had several emails and stuff. And so one of the leaders from the team went to Egypt and did the tour. And because of Iman was like, you need to do the tour for when, you know, the girls come. And she just really is something special. Like she, first of all, she's like, yeah, like Breonna was saying, like she's in a male dominated industry, which in Egypt is the tourism industry is their largest economy, right? And it's male dominated from the bus drivers to the hotel staff. Like, you know, normally when, especially in America, like when you stay in hotels, a lot of the staff tend to be women, but in Egypt, it's all men, like from housekeeping to bellhops, concierge, to the drivers, to the cooks and the chefs and the like all that kind of stuff. Like is a very male dominated industry. Like you hardly see women in these spaces at all, which is quite fascinating. But and so then there's Iman, who's like, you know, she has like her braids and like these fun glasses, and she's like literally hanging with the boys in terms of her profession. But she's also just, yeah, super sweet and super knowledgeable. So she had shared that, you know, she studied archaeology academically, and like all the tours that we did, like I would trail away and like go and walk by other tour groups that were in the museums and stuff, and still find that like Iman was like the best in terms of content. Like she just has an art of storytelling as well. So there was like the old cisgender white men tour guides, like very Indiana Jones, like blaring on and on and on about ancient Egypt. But like Iman would do it almost in this way of like telling like an enchanting love story.
I love that you said a love story, because what I picked up from her is that she loves her country. She loves her culture. She loves it so much that she knows about it. She knows detailed. She's not just recalling all the information about, you know, the kings. She's recalling information about how the culture was, how the people were living, how, you know, that what even the ones that weren't kings. And so in my mind, that is what really was conveyed to me, that she loves her country and she knows so much. There was times when I would point to some of the randomest hieroglyphics and she would have some information about it. And when you go to Egypt, understand that when you go to the temples, there are tons of very hieroglyphics, and she had some information, even down to one where there was a woman, actually a small one on this wall, that was about a woman giving birth, and the baby coming out of the woman on the hieroglyphic was black, like it was the color of the stone was black. And she said it's black because so many people have touched it, like to get blessed, like it's almost like a superstition kind of thing.
Fertility, right?
Yeah, the fertility. It touched it to get blessed so they can have a baby. And so she knew that. And then there was another element of that was talking about like birth control and maybe abortion, just different things. There was a hieroglyphic talking about that. None of the men was over there talking about that. And
with the condoms and the birth control.
Yeah. And so that I think her being a woman, her being an Egyptian woman, a progressive Egyptian woman, colors the tour in a certain way. Even when we went to that coffee shop that was, you know, that opened in the 1700s, the guy who was running it, I guess the owner or the coffee shop, the person who was the barista or whatever at the bazaar, he was trying to get her to talk about the men on the walls, and she was talking about, you know, the feminist writer, the man who was the feminist writer that kind of pushed culture forward in regards to women. And, you know, he's trying to convince her to talk about these, you know, these other people that he thinks are important. But I think she kind of knew that the people on our tour wanted to hear about, you know, people who were groundbreaking and not just because they were men. And it was a powerful moment for me to see her navigate him, because she was like, no. You know, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about this. And she was giving us so much information and so much just almost like that intersectional tour, which is what I wanted. I didn't want to just hear about Tuts and the Amaraz and you know, I just didn't want to hear about that. I wanted to hear about the people, the women, and she was definitely educated about that. She even took some time to sit down with us and talk about the current politics of Egypt. Like, we literally sitting down eating lunch, and she said, whatever questions you have, you know, just ask me. And she was very knowledgeable. That was the best. And then last but not least, I told y'all earlier that I missed the pyramids in the beginning. So we were staying an extra day. And so when we found out we were staying an extra day, she was literally campaigning, looking for drivers for me, looking for tour guides for me to be able to take me to the pyramids that last day, because I could just get up and go by myself. And so I wouldn't have to go by myself. And instead, when she couldn't find anybody, she literally took us all and found a driver and took me up there so I wouldn't miss that experience. And I was so grateful, because she didn't have to do that. She was off work. And so
right, she was supposed to go back home.
She was supposed to go back home to where did she live?
Alexandria.
Yeah. And so for her to do that, it was so considerate, and I really, really appreciated it, because, you know, I would have did it by myself, but I didn't want to do it by myself. And she made the process so much easier, and we had a great time, and I loved it. She was just a great, you know, great addition to the trip, that I feel like the trip wouldn't have went as well if we had another tour guide.
Right.
Let's talk about the people on the trip, because I think that may be something people might be concerned about, as far as, you know, people with, you know, expansive identities. What were your thoughts about the people, not the people in the culture, but the people who were traveling with Intrepid with us? You know, talk about those people a little bit.
So when we partnered with Intrepid, we chose to do the premium experience, which allowed us the ability to stay in 4 to 5 star hotels, planes, and food and all that kind of stuff, as opposed to like traveling by train throughout the country, or right. So they have more affordable options, and then they have premium and luxury accommodations as well. So we chose sort of the mid-tier premium experience. And so I think what I was most surprised by is like when I thought of Intrepid in the group travel, I pictured like 18-year-old like backpackers is what was coming to mind. Like, and instead, like most of the folks on our trip were like middle-aged. There was lots of couples. There was one family that did it together. So like father, mother, daughter combo. There was like a couple, lots of couples. Everyone was coupled except the 3 of us, right?
We had a mother and son, and we had a mother,
That's right,
father and son, and the rest were husband and wives.
yes. And so, and what was great was like folks from different parts of the world, which I was expecting, but not in this way. So the family was from Australia. Then there was the mother, son. They were New Zealand, but from Belgium.
Yeah.
And then there was a German couple, but they lived in LA, not LA,
San Diego.
Orange County, San Diego. And then there was like a couple from Cuba. I'm sorry,
Florida.
There was Florida, Miami. Same thing. No, I'm just kidding.
She was Cuban. The girl was Cuban.
She's Cuban. But he is like, yeah. So anyways, I just
I was about to be messy, but if you're trying to avoid being messy, I can cut it out.
I am, for the sake of recording, I'm trying not to. But you can say it.
Okay, so everybody was great in regards to their personality, in regards to what was happening. I could tell that the guy from Florida, that once RT came out, he was the one who had a problem with RT. Because he was the one, to me, that once RT came out, he was the one that started to act weird and act funny. Everybody else were acting, even if they were acting weird, it wasn't in a negative way. It was like, oh my God, you're so beautiful. And da, 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 da. It was that curious way, that kind of sweet and being nice and overly complimentary kind of way. But he was the one that was kind of being avoiding, like avoiding us, even to the point that I remember his wife, who was so bubbly, almost naive kind of woman, bubbly, little sweet young girl. And anytime she would be in a deep conversation with us or anybody, really, not just us, he would do this little tactic, which it was passive aggressive.
Well, first he would walk off and leave her.
Yes.
To do that little thing.
Yes. He would walk off because he didn't want to be in, especially with us, he didn't want to be in the conversation with us. And so he would walk off. But anytime she get in a deep conversation, he would do this jump out of nowhere and scare her to bring her attention back to him. And so at first I wasn't paying attention and he was just doing it. I was like, oh, they're a new couple. You know what I'm saying? They had just got married. So he doing this little cute stuff. But then I started to realize when he did it. And I told everybody to pay attention because I said he does it when her attention is not on him. And it's a passive aggressive way to get her attention back on him. And once I said that, y'all noticed that, oh, this is when he does it. Anytime he had a little conversation, she was having a deep conversation, he would try to come in and scare her and get her attention. It was very, very weird.
The time where we went to, I think that was the Valley of the Kings, and we got off the tour bus and we were swarmed by all the little kids.
Oh yes.
They just feel like superstars on tour. Well, she was in that group with us. And so they swarmed her as well, to where she felt like, I'm a superstar. And she was signing autographs and everything. And
she loved it.
She loved it. But you look over, he is a mile away. He has left her.
Irritated, right.
Irritated. So she leaves from that experience. Oh my God, I love this. I felt famous. You made me feel famous. The girls made me feel famous. Everybody. And then he'll jump out and just scare her. And we're all like, what is that for? Weird. And then, like you said, it pulls her back in to grab his hand, to have to be more attentive to him, and like forget about feeling herself in the moment.
Yeah,
it gave codependent trade.
Yes, it definitely did.
Mm-hmm.
But
we
that was
all
the only
know the girls that be with trade like that.
Yes,
I'm just saying.
Everybody else, other than that situation, everybody else was cool. We had a beautiful conversation on top of the boat with the mother and the father. They had just went through a tragedy, and we were just having some very race sensitive conversation with her, and grieving sensitive conversation with her. That was just beautiful, and that was amazing. I didn't expect that, because it was it was a very intimate moment, and that was great. One of the comical highlights of our trip is when we go to our last family to eat with, we're walking in, and Angela, the German wife, Angela said, we walking in, and it's looking kind of
up. We was driving up. We hadn't got off the bus when she said it.
I didn't hear. No, when she first said it, when I first heard her, we're coming into the place, and Angela says, "Oh gosh, that keeps taking us to the projects.
No, when she said it on the tour bus, when we drove up to the apartment building, she was like, the ghetto. This is the ghetto.
I was like, shh, Angela. She's like, what? It is. It's the project.
So this is the thing that they don't do that we are so used to here in America is people ask if you have allergies. And if you're allergic
No, they do.
Well, not at the houses. Intrepid did. But
No. So they explained to me that Intrepid explained to me that because we were there on PR, we didn't do all of the intake stuff that everyone else had to do. Because there's a level of registration I guess we didn't get. Because I explained that to them and they were like, oh, that shouldn't have happened. But then, I was like, well, we weren't asked. I'm the one that shared, with you all. Like, but I hadn't told them about your cat allergy. I just told them about like the peanuts, avocados, you know what I mean? Like, yeah.
And when you go into Egypt, you mostly hear about rabid dogs. You have to get rabies shots because there are rabid dogs running around everywhere. And mind you, the dogs were chilling. We didn't see no
laying out.
Dogs laying out. Wait, do you remember that one dog before I jump back into that story? Do you remember that one dog at the Nubian Village that was hustling us?
With the broken leg?
He was walking, he was limping, like his leg was broke. But as soon as we gave him some attention, all his legs worked.
Move.
I was like, even the dog is trying to hustle you out here. But it was that last family's house we went to, and I have a severe pet allergy. Love pets, severe pet allergy. So we walked in the house. It was so warm and welcome and inviting. And mind you, on this part of the trip, it had started getting cold and it had rained. So the heat was on in people's homes. So we walk in the house, the heat is on. It was warm, inviting, everybody speaking and saying hi. And there is this giant cat that looks like Garfield. And everyone just starts picking up and rubbing. So my mind is like, that's just fur running everywhere. And so I'm like, okay, you are here for the experience. Try to stay as long as you can. Sit down. I sit away from the cat. I sit away from people rubbing and picking up and holding the cat. And everything is fine. Dinner comes out. And all of a sudden, first my eyes start to itch and I get that tickle in the back of my throat. And usually it's fine if I just use a little bit of my inhaler and it kind of helps it in the beginning. And then I took my allergy pills. Food comes out, we're eating food, and Angela, I'm sitting next to Angela, and she looks over at me and she was like, are you okay? And I was like, no, I have a severe pet allergy. And she was like, whenever you are ready to go, we can leave because I'm ready to go too. I'll come with you and I'll help you. And I was like, okay, Angela. So we sitting there. I'm trying to bear it. They start playing with the cat again. I was like, I gotta go. Jumped up. I ran out the house. The people are so nice. They're like, oh, we can put the cat in the bedroom. We can lock it away. And I was like, it's not that. And Arya is telling the people it's not that. It's just that the cat is in the house and it's just become too much of her and she can't breathe. Go outside. They brought me out food. They brought me out dessert. It was still so amazing. But yeah, that's something that you should be aware of if you do this experience with Intrepid, that you go to people's homes. And so if you have allergies, you have to be aware of that.
So before we embarked on this journey, when I would tell people that we were going to Egypt, I would get immediately, oh, is it going to be safe? Oh, be careful. Oh, do you know about this? It was always this kind of concern. Also, oh, the men are really, really aggressive there. Be careful. It was about the aggressiveness of the men and the lack of safety for LGBT people. And so let's talk about that. Like, you know, we are trans women who travel, and so, you know, safety is one of our utmost concerns. And so tell me about your experience, and, you know, pre going on the trip, and, you know, on the trip, about safety.
When Intrepid reached out to us, you know, they essentially had a list of places that they had in mind for us to go. And I think we were really adamant about going to Egypt. I think there's a lot of stigma about traveling to Egypt, especially as an LGBT person, but also as a woman. A lot of people are like, oh, you know, questioning our safety. And then it started to make me question it more before we went on the trip. What's fascinating is it doesn't matter how modestly you dress, like this idea that, like, oh, she wore a mini skirt and that's why, is false, because men are just men, unfortunately. Ugh. And so we were covered head to toe, and they still were, you know, sexualizing us. This wasn't like every single day, but I'm just saying in general, like there were certain instances where, like, the what y'all were talking about when I fell behind the group, there was these boys or men, but they were in their like early 20s, and they were, you know, talking about how big their dicks were and like all that kind of stuff. And so that's when Angela was like, enough.
I didn't want to see your banana.
And mind you, I'm covered head to toe, so it like has nothing to do with what you're wearing. That's just a reality anywhere in the world, traveling as a woman or femme, it doesn't matter. Like, in terms of safety as a trans person, I think as a trans traveler in general, I think everyone should use discretion, not discretion, that's the wrong word, but I think everyone should be perceptive.
Discernment. Let the church girls say.
Yes, discernment. Amen. You have to embrace that, like, not every culture is trans affirming. In fact, we live in a world that does not want trans people to exist. And so there's certain battles that you fight, and there's some battles that you just don't fight. You pick your battles. And I know that's like very tricky, but like, I think what made it a successful experience for us is that, I don't know if I should articulate it that way, but like, I think because we are binary girls who followed all of the sort of guidance that we were given to maximize our safety, I think that really helped.
And Intrepid Travel's really doing their due diligence in putting us in the situation that we were in, with a great tour guide, and really, you know, even before we got there, they really prepared their staff. They prepared, you know, just everything that revolved around us was very, very meticulous about doing that. And I thought I didn't feel any kind of, as far as my transness goes, no, I didn't feel any kind of unsafe in regards to that.
I have to say, the last day that we were there at that last hotel, I don't know what it was about that hotel.
Because our tour guide had left.
Just that hotel and the men staff at that hotel,
there was a vibe. There was a vibe.
And they started being shady. Remember, we were sitting on the roof?
Sir,
yeah, they wouldn't serve us.
They wouldn't serve us.
They did want us to know that they knew our tea. That much I felt. So when y'all wanted to go to the place with the drinks, because Egypt is a Muslim country, there are certain areas where you are allowed to, so, you know, drinking alcohol is haram. And so because of that, there's basically sanctioned areas, in this particular case in Cairo, where you can drink alcohol. But it's not universal. There's no corner stores. You can't just go down the street and get you a drink. You can't go to a restaurant and order a cocktail. Like, you have to go to basically the riverboat, right? Most of the places were on the boat on the Nile, and that's sort of like the, what do you call it? Like the gray area where it's like, it's not on land, it's on sea. And so Brianna and Diamond really wanted a cocktail, and I was like, we not leaving, because it was the last day, and I just got spooked because it's fascinating. It didn't really hit me till the last day that there was a more so vulnerability. I feel like, to what you were asking earlier, Diamond, like, how did I feel about safety before going on the trip? I think I was a little daredevilish, like, oh, yes, it's illegal to be gay and trans in Egypt, but I'm still gonna go.
But
right?
they do gender affirming care in Egypt.
Yeah, they do. But that's actually not abnormal for a Muslim country. And a lot of people don't realize that. Like in Iran and Lebanon and other countries, they will provide your SRS. So because the Quran doesn't actually say anything derogatory about trans people, it does about sort of homosexuality. So oftentimes you'll find in Muslim countries, it's still a faux pas. Nobody wants their child to grow up to be a belly dancer. No one wants their child to grow up to be a trans person. But those things are sort of marginally accepted, right? So we saw the belly dancers, there was like, it's that weird loophole in sort of religious law where, like, they will celebrate and they love having a belly dancer at the occasion, but they don't want their son to marry a belly dancer, right? They don't want a belly dancer living next door to them. Exactly. And so transness is essentially very similar in that.
Except
in
there
Islam.
is in the Quran, in the hadith, there is a hadith that tells a story about a trans person being brought to the Prophet Muhammad, and they thought that they were going to be executed, but the Prophet was like, actually, long as she is living the life as a virtuous woman, as you get what I'm saying, long as she's living the life as a woman, that is okay. And they spared her life. And so that passage in the Quran is why the culture around transness actually shifted, and why, if you get your surgery, yes, you can be accepted in womanhood and still cover and do all the things that women do. Yes, you'll be accepted. But that's still that was a controversial move. But that is one of the reasons why in those countries that you name, because it is a portion in the Quran that talks about the word starts with an M. I can't pronounce it because it's an Arabic word, but yes, of a trans person not being spared by Muhammad. And so based on that, the laws to protect trans people, actually, that's how they justify them.
But culturally,
yes,
like, they still don't want you to be trans. So you'll transition, you'll get your surgery, you'll wear your hijab, you'll live sort of and model a virtuous woman. But that doesn't mean that they'll give you a job. That doesn't mean that they'll employ you. That doesn't mean that they'll, if their son comes home with you, they're gonna feel some type of way.
Facts.
Right? Like, and just like being in America. It is illegal to be gay. And so and how they sort of define that is more the sexuality part of it. So I'm sure you could be a flaming gay person on the trip and, like, nobody will say anything. But if you are trying to hook up, so the police and sort of their government's version of the FBI, they monitor all the hookup websites specifically for that. They also do raids at the clubs in Egypt. So the police have been known to specifically target and pursue drag queens, trans women, sort of checking their houses and seeing if there's articles of clothing belonging to, you know, the opposite gender, that sort of thing. And so it wasn't till the last day when we started getting these sort of microaggressions from the hotel staff that I started to become like spooked about safety. And of course, that was like the last day, like everybody's preparing to leave. The rest of the group was going on to go to Jordan. So they were like heading out, and like our tour guide was supposed to be leaving. And that's when I just started to notice a shift where like I'd go to the counter and ask like, oh, my hotel key stopped working. And it was like, sir, how can we help? Oh, what?
I forgot about that. You know, just to kind of, you know, as a queer person, we were outside, Aria was smoking, and we were outside just kikiing and talking with her, and we turn around, and it's like three men just gagging at us, just staring, and just that was a moment where I noticed where I was like, what is going on with this? And yeah, I do remember that. I forgot about that vibe. Even the vibe with the restaurant staff. And yeah, I remember that. Yeah, I remember. Okay. But that was the only time.
Yes, that was the only time. And even I have to say, even at that hotel, I remember at that point of the trip, my throat started hurting and I started feeling sick. And so I was like, well, where do I get throat lozenges? Remember, we were in the shop across the street, and I was like, do you sell throat lozenges? I was like, my throat hurt. And they were like, no. And so I went and asked the hotel staff, and they were like, oh, you can walk about 5 blocks down to the hospital. And I was like, what? What? I was like, no. So I came back upstairs, and there was this guy doing housekeeping. And he was always so nice to us from the time we checked in. And so he said hi, and I said hi. And I was like, can I ask you a question? I was like, my throat hurt. Can I get some throat lozenges or something? And so he told me about a website that they have to where the pharmacy brings medication to the hotel. And so he was like, just go down there and tell them Galabina, whatever the website was. And I was like, okay. So I went down there to the hotel staff and I told them that, and they were like, nope, can't nobody bring you medicine here. Can't nobody. And I was like, what? That's not what he just told me. So I go back upstairs. It was a mess. It was a back and forth. And so he eventually called the place for me to order me some medicine. And so I waited for the medicine. I think it was like, what, 3 hours, 4 hours before the medicine to even come.
Yeah.
But so there were still moments where in that particular hotel, because it was just that particular hotel where people were shady.
Yeah.
That there was
at the end.
Yeah, that there were still some nice people in the hotel, but mainly at that hotel, it was.
Yeah, our tea had spread, and they got our tea. It spread throughout all the staff, so then they just turned shady.
Well, would y'all do it again? Would y'all do the trip again?
I would definitely cruise up and down the Nile for a couple of days.
I love adventure. And so with Intrepid, I will definitely use them again in regards to going someplace that I've never been, because I like the idea of being with a group of people and we're experiencing these things all at the same time. I love the idea of that. It was so amazing. I was more flexible in what I wanted to experience with Egypt because I had never thought about it. And so I feel like I could do it with Egypt. I'm glad we all agreed to choose that one. But definitely would travel with definitely would like to use Intrepid travel to do another trip. I don't know exactly where, but I would definitely do that and use them again.
I would use them for Thailand because I'm sure they know exactly where to go in Thailand to see all of the temples, and I'm sure they probably would be able to take you to the beach also. So that seems like a place where I would definitely use Intrepid for, because they plan everything.
Yeah, I love that part.
This is perhaps one of the most unique trips I've done. A lot of experiences have been either for work or they tend to be opposite, extreme. Like I'm either there to work, like in Brazil, I was on a speaking tour, right? So like it was very focused on work and less about like the experience. So I wish I would have done more. And then like typically, you know, we've gone places and it like I think our agenda item is like leisure, rest, um, play. Do you know what I mean? Like sunshine, beach. Remember y'all did like the ATVs and then I went to the spa, like you know, very it's very that. I forget where we were, but very that
Cancun.
at Cancun. And this trip was very different because it really is all about the adventure and it's curated day to day. Like you literally are just required to show up. Um, like that's it. You don't have to put any thought into it, which is quite nice. Um, I definitely would do an Intrepid trip again. I definitely think doing the adventure sort of trip for 10 days, I don't think I would do it as long. And not just because um, it's a lot of walking, a lot of hiking, lots of stairs up and down, um, lots of movement. And so I definitely like pushed myself to keep up, pushed myself to like really just be like, okay, girl, I know your legs are in pain, but you gotta hop in and out the boat. You gotta hop onto the, you know, what I mean, the boat is rocking. Picture yourself on like a gondola. So in Egypt, they call them feluccas. So we were on these feluccas and it's rocking on the water, and you got to stabilize yourself and get onto the dock, hustle up the steel steps, and then be ready to jump into the bus and then hop out and hike into, you know, an ancient Egyptian temple ruin. And there's, you know, when you're doing that, like it's fun, it's thrilling. There's just not a lot of downtime. And so as a big girl, like it definitely was like, ooh, I definitely need to get more steps in. I would need to rehearse and prepare before the trip, before the tour, so that I can keep up with everybody. So I definitely would do it again. I know they have tours like in Vietnam that I was looking at. They also have Antarctica, which I think would be really cool. Like things that I just could never imagine putting together myself. And like I think that's the genius thing that they offer is like you really don't have to think about it. You pay a flat rate and it's all inclusive. So it covers your lodging, it covers your airfare to and from, and they think about all of the details from start to finish. Um, as far as Egypt, I would go back, but I would want to go back and sort of stay at like a resort. So I would definitely like stay at the Four Seasons in Cairo and like just be there for maybe 4 or 5 days. Do the boat tour for a couple of nights, like Brianna was saying. So the riverboat on the Nile. Um, but yeah, like the highlights of this trip in particular, like we went to the spice markets, the tea shops, we got jewelry and odds and bits at the bazaar, perfumes.
Yeah, definitely.
What'd you say, Brianna?
I was like, oh damn, I did buy jewelry. I forgot about it. I need to find it.
Oh my God. Right. We didn't even talk about that. You bought jewelry.
I did. They had really good prices on gold, so I bought a gold chain. I think we all went to the oil market, to the oil shop, and bought perfume oils and spent too much money on on body oils. But yeah, I feel like, oh my goodness,
Oh, I bought the artwork.
I still haven't unpacked my artwork.
Oh no. So I went to the art store that's by my house, Bree, and they're framing it. Now it's way more of a coin than I ever thought it would be to frame it. But they when they were working on my order, they were like, oh my gosh, like, you know, is this papyrus? And I was like, it is. And the actually it was like a queer person that was actually helping me, and they were feeling the texture and they were explaining like how exquisite it was, and they actually used to work with papyrus when they worked for the papyrus stores that used to be in San Francisco.
So
Yeah.
cute. I love this. It was my favorite out of the trip. I got two of them. I got the lucky one with the scarab, and then I got this one just because, you know, we love Black women art or art of Black women. And so this one was just beautiful to me. So I love that one. And I also got this because, you know, this is my alabaster box dream. And so I got this
Oh,
beautiful
that's right.
alabaster little thing to go on my I use it to hold incense, or it's for my altar. And so I just thought it was so beautiful, the red, because my house, you know, have accents of red. And so it was something that I wanted to have, and it was good. I loved it.
It just feels like a once in a lifetime experience. Like I just don't know anybody that's going to Egypt every summer. Do you know what I
Right.
mean? Like, and so I think to have had that opportunity, like, I definitely think Egypt is such a beautiful country, both now and, you know, in its storied past. And the people, like, next time I definitely would want to go to the fabric district, like the with the
Yes.
textiles and the fabrics. Like we didn't actually get to go into that, and like I hear that they have a beautiful like music scene in Cairo. Like so, there's definitely obviously. I mean, it's a beautiful culture, and like you know, Cairo is a mega city like New York, London, you know, etc. So like there's just lots more to see and do. Um, so I definitely would do it again. I probably would do it in a different way. I don't know if I would do it in group travel again, not because this trip was amazing, absolutely, just because I think I'd be able to kind of do things less centered around ancient Egypt. Now that I've done sort of the Indiana Jones ancient Egypt experience, and I would definitely like do it again and yeah, in a different way.
Well, I want to thank y'all for joining me on not only this trip, but on the show and sharing our experience. We want to thank Intrepid for choosing us to be, um, you know, just to be on this trip. This was a chance of a lifetime. It was amazing. I loved it. And I appreciate y'all for joining me, and tell the people where they can find y'all.
You know, I'm not really a
Bree.
social media person, but you know, I'm Breonna Mrcree. You can find me on Instagram and Facebook.
And I'm Aria Said, and you can find me on Snapchat, Christian Mingles, and no, I'm just kidding. What's the other one that she says? Sorry.
Jacked,
BGC.
BGC
Jack.
Jacked.
That's right. Oh
Shout
my
out
God.
to TS
Okay,
Madison.
you can't. Sorry, you can't find me on any of those, but you can. Yeah, find me on social media under my name. And then yeah.
And yeah, you can find me Diamond Styles everywhere. And Marsha's Plate. Make sure you subscribe and listen to the show. All right, y'all. Have a wonderful day.
Thank
Woo.
you, Diamond.